Welcome to the Big Time Strength Podcast, featuring small school strength coaches delivering big time strength conditioning experiences for their student athletes. Before we get to today's show, I'd like to recognize our wonderful sponsors who help bring this podcast to you for free. Our first sponsor is TeamBuildr. TeamBuildr is the leading software for high schools and colleges by providing coaches the ability to write programs online, generate over 13 reports, and even train athletes remotely for side income. Right now, if you sign up with code BIGTIME, you will receive a free APRE programming template, which works automatically within TeamBuildr. No more spreadsheets and workout cards to track training maxes that change day by day. Automate your programming without outsourcing your programming with TeamBuildr. Guys, please check out TeamBuildr. Great company, awesome people. They have done an amazing job with us here at William Jewell College. Our next sponsor is Optimum Nutrition Athletics. Protein is key to muscle recovery, and Gold Standard 100% Whey, the world's best-selling whey protein powder, provides 24 grams of protein that mixes easily just using a glass and a spoon. Gold Standard 100% Whey is made in Optimum Nutrition's state-of-the-art facilities in Aurora, Illinois, and is banned substance tested by Informed Choice. Through their program, you can also get Pro Gainer for big athletes looking to become even bigger and ready-to-eat protein snacks, including Crisp bars, bites, wafers, and almonds. After dominating the sports nutrition industry for over 30 years, newly created Optimum Nutrition Athletics brings that same trust and quality that knows how to put convenient options for protein in the hands of athletes who desire to become bigger, stronger, and better at their sport. Email Derek Walters, Director of Optimum Nutrition Athletics, for more information and to get free samples sent to your facilities for your athletes to sample and provide feedback. Big thanks to both of our sponsors. They do an amazing job. We really appreciate their support. One more thing before we get to today's episode, please visit BigTimeStrength.com for more information on show notes, contact information for myself, Coach Gage Rozier, and my colleague, Coach Preston Peterson. He has done an amazing job putting that website together. Please check it out. And one last favor, guys, if you're enjoying this resource, please share it with other coaches. Please give us a rating, give us a comment on iTunes, and let us know how we're doing. Hey, guys, thanks for tuning in to episode number 52 of the Big Time Strength Podcast. It's been a year of the podcast, which is crazy. That was kind of our original goal, was to do a year of it, see where we're at, and go from there. And we're going to keep going because it's been great so far. We could keep learning from just some outstanding coaches, and it continues in this episode. Guys, we have on Coach Tyler Ayers. He is the head strength conditioning coach at Weber International University. Before there, he was the first-time head athletic performance coach at Lawrence University. He spent some other couple trips at Weber before coming back to Weber in 2017. And Coach just has a great episode here with a lot of awesome content, particularly about just his staff. They have a great mentorship program there where they're just pumping out all kinds of amazing strength coaches, and the amount of time and effort they put into that process is just outstanding. Really appreciate Coach's time and joining us here on this podcast. Guys, I hope you enjoy. Please, if you do, like it, share it, leave us a comment. Please reach out to Coach Ayers. He's a great guy. He'd love to answer any questions you may have. Enjoy. Hey, Coach Ayers, I really appreciate you coming on the Big Time Strength Podcast and spending some time with us. Why don't you get us rolling by describing your journey through strength conditioning so far and where you're at right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I thank you for giving me the opportunity and providing me the chance to speak with you. My journey is probably similar to most, I think. I grew up playing athletics, involved with football all the way through high school. And then, during my college time, I went to a D3 school up in Indiana, Anderson University, where I majored in exercise science with minors in nutrition and sport coaching. I kind of was in that phase where I was like a junior in college and trying to decide what my next move was going to be. It was either going to be sport coaching or strength and conditioning route. And I decided that there's probably better job opportunities within strength and conditioning at the time. So I decided to pursue that. One of the first things we had to do from a educational side is we had to experience or take on some type of internship role. So I did that during my summertime between my junior and senior year, where I had the opportunity to intern at a place called you're going to kill me now. Acceleration, Indiana. Goodness. So a small private place. We worked with high-speed treadmills, worked with plyometrics, things of that nature. Quickly realized I probably didn't want to spend my time kind of babysitting and working with younger athletes, kids that were basically forced to go there because of their parents' request. So I decided to try to pursue something in the collegiate route. So I finished up my senior year there at Anderson and started helping out with the football staff in their off-season. So I worked with their off-season football program there. By the time I graduated, I was seeking out internship opportunities. I actually had the opportunity to go back home to Daytona Beach, Florida, where I'm from. Work at Bethune-Cookman University, a small Division I school there, under Coach Medgar Harrison, him and his staff. And that was my first real experience of working with teams there. Got to work with football, volleyball, some baseball a little bit too, both basketballs and all that stuff. So it was kind of my first real experience. Learned a lot there. And that kind of led me to the next phase of my journey once that internship ended there, where I had the opportunity to come work at Weber International for the first time around. This time I was under Steve Rassel. I was as an intern assistant here at Weber, and I was able to work with a couple different teams where I was able to become my own strength coach for each of those teams. I was in charge of the programming, in charge of discussing with sport coaches and with ATs, and I was kind of the actual kind of head strength coach for that sport. I had some oversight from Coach Steve Rassel and the two assistants at that time, but I really was my first opportunity to become like basically the head strength coach of some couple sports. So I finished up that at the end of 15 and decided to move on. This time I went to Stetson University over in DeLand, Florida, so another small Division I school. I had the opportunity to work there under Coach Brad Lokey for a little bit. At some point in time there, he actually stepped out, and I was able to take on the interim head strength coach title at Stetson University for a couple months before they found a new head strength coach. So I worked there the summer of 15 and had the opportunity to work with women's soccer team, both basketballs again, and a couple football guys too as well. At that time, I had the opportunity to try and stay and possibly become the assistant there, but also, like many people that may have some type of similar story, my former mentor reached out to me, Coach Steve Rassel, and gave me the opportunity to come back to Weber, again, this time in a full-time capacity as an assistant. So I jumped at that, at the immediate, acknowledgement of that, and took that. So I came back to Weber again, this time 15 through 16, worked with softball primarily, assisted with football, and then oversaw some other sports, and so also through our mentorship program. And then following that year, I decided, I've done enough here at Weber. Didn't see too much of a growth opportunity anymore within the university itself. Coach Raz has been here for 7 or 8 years at that time, and I didn't really see him leaving or stepping away at all. So decided to take on a job up in Wisconsin, went to a D3 school, Lawrence University in Appleton, Wisconsin, became the first ever head athletic performance coach there for them. Got to work with all 21 of their sports teams. That's that kind of the solo gig that everybody knows about, the small school level. So I did that for about a year, and again had the opportunity to come back to Weber. This time, Coach Steve Rassel stepping aside a little bit. He went to the administrative side of things, and I came back here in 2017, or fall 17, and became the associate head strength coach here at Weber International, working with football primarily, softball as well, and then also overseeing the rest of our sports implementation amongst our GAs and our assistant strength coaches. So that's kind of the role I've taken. I've been here at Weber ever since for 2 years now, so I guess I'm going on, or just finishing up year 4 out of 5 of spending time here at Weber. So for some reason, I just can't get away.
That was going to be my next question is, it's a lot of experience in about a 5-year period. What is it about Weber that just keeps pulling you back?
For me, location-wise is a big thing. I think many times in the strength and conditioning field, we'll try to go wherever there's a job. And me being 2 hours from home has been kind of nice because I can go home and see extended family or see my family through holidays and things like that. It was definitely a big piece to it, being close to Central Florida and what's home for me. But the second aspect of it, though, is definitely Weber feels like a family. I mean, it's a small school. We have about 650, 700 students here, and about 600 of them are student athletes. So when you think about that, everybody's kind of here for the same purpose. Yes, they're here to get an education, but they're also here to be an athlete. And that's kind of a special thing that we have here is our kids are athletes and they want to perform, and that makes our job pretty easy. We're not, I don't want to say we're not the Princeton or we're not the Yale. They're not here to, become doctors and things along that nature. But we definitely want them to be smart and get their education, but also the athletic side of things plays a big role in what we do. So it makes it easy from a job standpoint of getting them in, and they come in ready to work almost every day. So.
Well, that's great, Coach. You're obviously at a spot you love, and you through there you've had kind of experience in a lot of different spots. D1, D3, private sector as well. Is there anything in particular you think stands out between levels, or is it pretty much the same working with all those groups of athletes? Maybe expand on that topic a little bit.
Yeah, I think at the D1 level, through my experiences at least, I think you work with a lot of athletes, or a lot of athletes that have a lot of potential. They may be missing one thing here or there, but a lot of them can move pretty well, or at least they have the ability to. And I think at the lower levels, kind of NAIA D3 route I've taken recently, I think some of the things I see on a daily basis here is some of these kids coming in, yeah, they're athletic, but they may not have had any type of weight room experience in high school. They may not move that well. They may not be as fast or as quick or as strong. There's definitely a fire in most of them, just like there are at the Division I level. But I would say the movement and the ability to kind of get those kids to get after a little bit, it takes a little bit more time at the small school. But again, you get to be a little more personable too as well. I think some of the best times I've had, or some of the things I've had along my journey, I've been making relationships with our athletes here at Weber or at Lawrence, where I was before, and just getting to know them deeper than just service level. Understanding why they play their sport, understanding why they're here, why they're getting a degree from Weber, and those types of things have kind of made a long-lasting impact on my life, and also my strength and conditioning journey too as well. I think. That have been different a little bit. I'm not saying I wouldn't have had those experiences at the Division I schools, but granted, during my time that I spent there was kind of most times during the summer, which would have been a little bit different than our traditional 9-month academic year. But
yeah, 100%, Coach. That's great stuff. And let's expand a little bit on what you got going there at Weber. What's maybe your guys' mission statement, or maybe some of the core values that really drive your program?
Yeah, so for strength and conditioning right now, one of the first things we want to do, we want to impact our student athletes in a positive light. We live by 4 core principles here, and that's energy, discipline, toughness, and servant leadership. And we ask that for our staff to give to our athletes, and our athletes to give back to us as well. We think those are the core standpoints of what we do every day. We always want our athletes to bring energy, just like I want my strength conditioning staff to bring energy to the weight room. There's got to be a discipline about themselves. Whether it's a set of reps or whether it's going to a line to make a cut for any type of conditioning work or agility work that we're using, we want to be disciplined with what we do. From the toughness aspect of things, we definitely want our staff and also our athletes to be tough. There's going to be times where we don't want them, or we're going through some things, and we may not feel like getting up that morning, or we may not feel like giving our best, but we got to be tough in some of those situations. And then also we're going to put our athletes in situations that are going to tax them mentally and physically. So there's got to be some type of toughness associated with that. And then lastly, there's the servant leadership side of things. What we do is a servant job. I don't think that any of us would be in this profession if we didn't have servant leadership at the core of us. And so that's the same thing I ask of my staff and I ask of our student athletes, is be there to serve one another. It's very easy to say, I'm doing everything for me, everything I can for myself. But what can I do to make this university better? What can I do to make my teammates or my staff or my department better? And so I think that comes with the servant leadership side with what we're doing here currently. But again, like I said, too, it's all athletic related. We want our athletes to become better, stronger, faster, more explosive, a better overall athlete. And so that's kind of what we tax our athletes around, is our 4 core principles, and then also trying to get them better on the field and sport play.
No, I think those are great 4 principles, and I'm sure those principles are kind of the bedrock of your culture. How would you describe your culture, and is there any way that you assess the effectiveness or the health of your culture?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we do well here is, like I mentioned, we're a small private school with 90-something% of our students are athletes. So they come in with a desire to get better. A part of that is, of course, with us in the weight room or with us on the field, doing type of sprint, agility, or conditioning work with them too. And so they come in with that kind of effort that they do want to get better. There's times where it's a little bit tough, and they may not be willing to bring it every day, but we do our part as coaches to make sure that we set the temperature in the room. We're not going to be the thermometer. We're going to be the thermostat. We're going to set the energy. So those are some of the things we try to do. When it comes to culture overall, I mean, I would think that we're just like most schools, we still have our ups and downs, but I think we're on the more positive side. Again, like I said, with as many athletes as we have here, they definitely know what they're getting themselves into. A lot of them may treat it as athletics first, which is fine for me and my staff, because again, that's what we do. We're cultured and kind of centered around the athlete, so that's important for me. But then when it comes to gauging it, we've had coaches here in the past. I had a coach Connor Derrickson, who worked under Coach Matt Nine at Salisbury University and took on his assessment tool and used it with his men's volleyball program. Currently, we don't implement anything across the board. I allow my GAs or my assistant coaches or coaches that come in to choose and decipher how they want to kind of gauge their athletes, whether it's their testing data or whether it's in regards to their ability to be bought into what's going on. I kind of leave that open-ended, but we definitely provide some type of encouragement or some type of resource for them to use or reach out to if they choose to do so.
And Coach, one of obviously the kind of the trademark idea of this podcast is making the big time where you're at. And is there any way that you think you're doing that in a unique way, making the big time where you're at there at Weber?
I would hope so. My biggest thing for us right now is I've been trying to stand on the shoulders of giants. Coach Steve Rassel, who started this program here a little over 10 years ago now, has stepped away from our university and is now working with the Toronto Blue Jays, so shout out to him. But what I'm doing is I'm just trying to continue what we've done here and what he's done in the past, and then build upon it too as well. One of the things I think we do really well here versus other places, I do think we do a great job with our mentorship. Our mentoring of our graduate assistants or our intern assistants is second level and second to none. We've taken some of the pieces that Steve Rassel has incorporated over the past couple of years, improved upon them a little bit, added our own unique twist to them a little bit too as well. I really think that that's one of the staples that you'll see if you look through Weber Athletics and try to find the strength conditioning page that's buried somewhere on the athletics page. But you can look there and see that we have a large coaching tree that's come through here. People at Division I level, people as heads as D2, D3, other NAI schools too as well, and other people that are in professional and even the private sector. And what we just try to do is try to give the coaches that come through here the tools and the things they need to become great strength and conditioning coaches. A lot of people they have come in are great practitioners. They come in, they know their science, they know what they're doing from that side of things, but we try to give them the tools they need, though, to make sure they can become a great strength coach and have a long-lasting career. And that's one of the things I think we do better than a lot of people. It's not saying we do a great job, actually. We still have our hiccups along the way, but we try to give them feedback, too, as well. I think another thing everybody talks about is how do we objectively gauge how a strength conditioning coach is doing his or her job? Well, here we've taken on the task of having a 62 question evaluation that me and my upper staff, me and my two assistants do for our GAs and for our intern assistants to come through here to give them objective feedback on where they stand for things that we find important to become a great strength coach. And whether that's on the floor coaching ability, whether that's programming ability, whether that's working with the head coaches or working with the athletic trainers or working with upper administration, we try to gauge them on those things and provide them with the objective feedback of that and what we see. Again, it's kind of firsthand experience of us looking at it. But again, I think there's some of those places out there we always have the discussion of, well, how do we judge a strength coach's work? How do we know what they're worth? Ours is probably longer than most people would want, but it works for us, and we try to tackle and touch on every single aspect of strength and conditioning and what it means or every part of strength and conditioning. So I think it's unique for us.
Oh, 100%, Coach. That's great stuff you're just talking about. Just curious, how often you give that evaluation? Is that a once-a-year thing, once a semester? I mean, how often are you evaluating your staff and giving them feedback?
Yeah, so we originally had it set up to try and do it twice a semester. We'd get one at the halfway point whether that be the fall break for most schools during the fall semester or spring break during the spring semester, of course. But we've kind of gotten around to just twice a year now, I guess. We try to do one that middle, the front half of the fall, and then we definitely do a final one in the spring to finish things off. So it's something we haven't become great with. It takes time. That's their part with it as well. Our 62 question evaluation takes time, of course. So me and my assistants will sit down and go coach by coach and question by question. And we'll try to provide reasoning behind why we gauge them a certain way that we gauge them. Or that we scored them, just so they have more feedback. I think the more feedback we give our coaches or we give our interns or GAs or people that we're trying to mentor, I think the more they're going to get from it and the better a coach they can become. So, like I said, it's twice a year right now. We try to get it up to 3 or 4 if we can. Depends on time, though. Again, we can always say we have little to no time, to do these things, but it's important for us. We try to set time apart and give them the feedback. I think that most of them are pretty receptive of it. Again, it's not a matter of they disagree or they agree, but hey, as us being your mentors and us being the next level above you, we're trying to show you where we see you. And if that's not the case, then just prove us wrong. Or if that's not the case, then show what we can do better, or show what you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm also curious, you come in to Weber in 2017 and take on the head role for a great coach who's been there for years. What's your first step or your strategy in dealing with that staff? Coming in, new coach that's been with another coach who's done great things. What are you doing with that staff coming in? You changing a bunch of stuff? Like you said, are you just continuing what he did and building off of it? Maybe expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, I really have to give my hat off to Coach Steve Rassel because he helped me out a lot. He involved me because I knew about my coming back to Weber in 2017 by May, and I wasn't scheduled to start until June or July. So he actually included me in part of the hiring process for that year's crew from a graduate assistant standpoint, also an intern assistant standpoint too as well. So he gave me the opportunity to look through the resumes, be a part of the interviews, and really gauge what kind of staff we were bringing in. So it was really easy when I got here because I was a part of the puzzle of getting them here. I understood where they're coming from. It wasn't completely blind to it. And even the previous staff that we were keeping for the next year, Coach Chris DeSanto and then also Coach Mark Dessart, I was involved in their hiring process before I left. So I had some type of connection to almost everybody along the way. And then when I got back here, it was a matter of, let's continue to make things happen. The unique thing is that Coach Steve Rassel was still here. Coach Rassel was still here during my time. And so when I first got started, one of the biggest things he said was, you'll be intimidated by, me still being here, but yet you being in charge. Don't think of it as I'm looking over your shoulder and I want it done a certain way. He's like, this is your baby now. This is your thing. Run with it. Make the necessary adjustments that you want to make to it. Continue the things that are going well, but make it your own. And don't think that I'm going to, step in and say you're not doing a great job of it. And that was probably one of the easiest things he said. Now, it was still difficult for me to do that because, again, your former mentor, your former boss is still here in another capacity and is still sharing the same office with you. It's kind of difficult to be able to, understand that, what he's asking you to do. But no, it was, let's continue what's been great and let's build upon what we've done in the past and what we can make better. Likewise, when I mentioned our 62 question evaluation, whenever our coaches leave here, we always I get feedback from them all the time of, hey, what went well? What do you think you learned the most of during your mentorship time here that you learned from us? What did you wish we spent more time on? And we're continually to evaluate our program and continuing to evaluate our staffs that come in and out each year. And so that was one of the unique things too, as well as I'm not recreating the wheel here. I'm not trying to turn everything over and make things something brand new and something completely different. What we have here is good. The unique challenge I was presented, though, was now we're going from a 1-year intern assistant position to a 2-year graduate assistant position. So how does our 1-year schedule fit, which was really well? How does that fit over 2 years now to make sure that we're not, doubling down on something or that we get everything we need to get in the first year when we still have another 6 to 12 months with them after they're done with that first year. So that's been the unique challenge since then. But, I was just trying to build upon what we've done here in the past and, again, stay on the shoulders of giants and Coach Raz, and that's kind of what we continue to do here to this day.
Oh, Coach, I love it. Very insightful stuff. And I think one of your last points there is, getting feedback from your staff and where they think what they like, what they didn't like, what you could do more of. I think is just a powerful tool. I think it helps buy-in from your staff as well, that they have a part of the say what goes on there and that you're looking for feedback. I think that's super powerful, Coach. Let's talk a little bit about fundraising. Obviously, a lot of us small school coaches, we don't have a whole lot of money, not much of a budget. Is there anything you're doing to help fix that problem, get some money for your department?
Yeah, so we do a handful of things. One of the first things I'll mention, because it's probably our largest fundraising opportunity, it's somewhat unique to us, but again, we found an area that was somewhat being neglected on campus within our athletics department. So nobody, like this was probably 6 or 7 years ago, and again, as Coach Raz is doing, nobody was running a concession stand well or on a routinely basis for our volleyball, men's basketball, our indoor sports, and then also our non-traditional, or I should say non-traditional, but our other field sports that wasn't football. Football ran their own, that was fine, but everybody else kind of just picked and chose what they wanted to do for their concession stand. So Coach Raz actually stepped to administration and asked them if the strength and conditioning staff could run it and then keep the proceeds that we brought in. So our biggest thing right now is we run the concession stand for every sporting event now that's held as a home game. It takes a little bit of time, takes a little bit of effort on our staff. Again, we have a larger staff, so I feel like our capability to do that is probably easier than some places. But it nets us somewhere of $6,000 to $10,000 a year.
Wow.
In profits that we're able to bring in. And so, but I'll turn around though, and the money we bring in, we'll turn around and give it back to our coaches. So I'll pay for our entire staff out of our booster account to go to conferences, to go to the NSCA coaches conference we went to in January. Took myself and a couple other coaches with me to the CSCC conference last week, or a couple weeks ago now. So we try to do some things like that to give back to them, continue education standpoint, and we'll also have staff outings that kind of goes back too. So it's kind of a tough haul sometimes, during the fall with football and having day games in Florida where it can be 90-plus degrees all the way through like October. That can be kind of a haul when it comes to the time and energy spent then. But it's very rewarding for our guys, though, and our staff to be able to do like some of the fun outings or be able to go to conferences and put it back into them. So that's probably the first thing for us. And again, I know it's unique to us, but we try to find some of those small holes that we get into and try to make better here on campus and within the athletic department itself. In addition to that, though, we also have let's see here. The other one we've done is muscle milk. So we've turned over some of our collegiate muscle milk stuff to our athletes. We'll sell that at a rate that we're still making a small profit on that we're getting from our wholesaler, but we'll do some muscle milk things. And then also looking at some of the things we're looking to as well is also trying to get into some of the T-shirts. I know our kids here we use a large W for our T-shirts as our staff. The kids love it, and they keep asking us how many times they can get a T-shirt or they can buy one or whatever. I'm like, I don't have anything yet, but that's probably one of the things we're looking forward to of possibly doing in the future because, again, for whatever reason, our kids just love our logo, so we'll continue to try and use it and try to do some things like that. But I think every opportunity you have is an opportunity to grow, and so we just try to find where we could best fit and best use our time and our resources. And for us, that's what it's been thus far. And we try to make things better as we go along with it, and so again, it's kind of unique to us, but it's our thing. So
no, I think that's great way to fill a need in the whole athletic department. I'm sure your administration loves that, and then also that's a good amount of money coming back to you guys. So that's a great idea. A great job for interns too, I'm sure to do the concession stands. So.
Oh yeah. That's the thing too. You keep them in the loop and you keep them at the games.
Yeah.
Because even there's downtime in basketball games or volleyball games where they can pop out and watch a little bit, and all of a sudden now you get the student athletes involvement of seeing one of their strength coaches there, even if it's somebody that helps out or another strength coach from a different sports team they work with, but just to see faces and not be just the weight room people. I think a lot of times that's what happens. We get known as the weight room people, and we never come out of our shell, or we never come out of our office, or whatever it is. Or dojo, so to speak. So I want my coaches to be seen around campus and doing other things. So we try to help out, like I said, best we can.
It's beautiful. Love it, Coach. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. You said you have around 600 athletes, I believe you said earlier. So I'm
Correct.
always curious how coaches, with which you have a great staff there, but with dealing with that many athletes, how do you level them off? Do you have a level system? And if you do, what's that maybe look like?
Yeah, so we've somewhat incorporated and developed a Block Zero program. We don't use it across the board with all of our athletes, but we do have something in place for those incoming freshmen that we may get here for the summertime, or they may get here in the fall, to take them through kind of a Block Zero approach of getting them down to groove and master the fundamental movements. You know, can we hip, hinge? Can we press? Can we pull? Can we squat? Can we do the basic movements? And then from there we progress. But we do have that access to that. But another thing we do too as well is we take our athletes, all 600 of them, through some type of assessment. So we do have a tri-planner core assessment. Again, this is kind of taken from Coach Raz. He implemented it here before he left. But taking them through a tri-planner core assessment of anti-lateral flexion, anti-extension, and going through all those different things and planes to make sure that our athletes are strong through the core. We don't have enough data just quite yet to be able to gauge that back to injury, the likelihood of injury or number of injuries we've had over the past couple of years, but that's ultimately what we're trying to get to with that. So we'll take our athletes and assess them in all aspects. We have a bare minimum of things that we ask them to do, and on top of that too, if they want to do anything sport specific for their sport or for their team, they have the opportunity to do that too as well. But we do assess all 600 of our athletes come through in some aspect. Like I said too, from a Block Zero standpoint, we'll take them through a Block Zero when they get here in the fall, or if it's like a fall team, we'll try to get them something in the summertime to get them going and moving in the right direction. So when they get here, we can hit the ground running again. So it's somewhat unique for what we do here, and it's kind of been built in house, but it's something that works for us thus far.
How long does it take to assess one athlete in that assessment protocol you guys do?
Yeah, so with our tri-planner core assessment, which is the only one we require for our coaches to run with their teams, we'll have it set up in a station. So we'll have it set up for our fall teams that get here. We'll try to have 4 or 5 different stations set up so we can run our athletes through it pretty quick, and we'll roll them through. So like they'll start in a front plank position for one of their anti-extension positions there. They'll work through that one. They'll move over. We may have an overhead squat with dowel rod as the next one, so just to see their movement quality. They'll rotate to that one. They'll go back around to the backside of the weight room. It's just a big circle, ever moving circle, basically, of allowing the athletes to migrate around. And usually it'll take less than an hour for kind of our moderate to smaller size teams. With football, we'll do something slightly different. We'll try to get them in through our mini camp dates that we have in the summertime, assess most of them then, and then catch anybody we didn't get to when they get here in the fall. But we try to do that as soon as they get here, so it's a unique thing for us to, we have the staff to do it from a number standpoint, and we try to do it as efficiently as we can, so we'll have all hands on deck. Doesn't matter if you work with that sports team or not, or that's not your athletic team or you're responsible for, but we'll incorporate you in that, and it gets you a chance as a coach to know other athletes and get to, be more than just a random person in the weight room, and get to, build relationships with other athletes and other teams here on campus. So it's kind of unique, but I think it works for us.
Yeah, I love it. What is your vision for your program in the next 5 years, Coach? Where are you taking that program next?
Yeah, I think for us, it's continuing to find kind of an edge with what we can get into. So we've gotten into a little bit of the science a little bit more. So we've got a couple more tendos. We only had 1 before. We have up to 4 now. We looked at just trying to see what areas, again, we can improve upon for our own department and our own mentorship, but then also where can we stand out at the NAIA level. Again, it's not the Division I level, not D2. There's not a lot of money being spent or being thrown around with who we currently have. But it's usually unique for us to try to find those avenues where we can make a big difference in our student-athletes' lives, but then also in our coaches' lives too as well. So we're trying to get better with certain things here and there. I don't want to give it all away, but for me, the biggest thing is continuing to build upon our mentorship, find out, as coaches turn over, as they go take new jobs, what worked for them when they were here, what they learned the most out of, or what they wish they got more out of during their time with us. And then we try to implement those things in a timely manner to make sure that our current staff we have that's still going with us is able to, see some of those things or be exposed to some of those things. But yeah, and then also, like I mentioned too, some of the science aspect of trying to get into different areas, whether it's more velocity-based training devices, whether it's getting into some type of software or getting into some type of athlete monitoring system. Like, there's a couple different avenues we're trying to look at.
Yeah.
But again, like I mentioned before, small NAI school, small budget, and not enough concession stands to run to make some of those happen. So.
Sure. How about you as a coach? What are you really looking forward to diving into here the next year or so?
Yeah, for me, I'm actually going through my master's degree right now, so I'll be finished up here in about 9 or 10 months. So I'm looking forward to finishing that up because that makes for a lot more downtime to get back into some of the strength conditioning side of things when it comes to developing myself. But I try to set some time aside each week, or at least some time during the day, to dive into more resources, whether it's podcasts, whether it's new journals coming out through the NSCA. I'm just trying to find somebody I can learn from too as well. It's kind of my biggest thing. But school's taking a decent amount of chunk of that, which I'm assuming I may have been off more like a chew right now. But so far so good. So then this next year for me is going to be big by the time I start finishing up my degree and be able to get again deeper into some things and again trying to build upon what we've done here in the past and what we're continuing to do. So for me, it may be reaching out to some of the bigger names in the field and getting their input on some of our mentorship stuff, or some of those that have done a really good job of the mentor aspect. But
what are you getting your master's degree in?
Sports business management. So our university here is pretty much business oriented, and almost everything we offer is business related. So right now, sports business management, and I just find I've had a couple of classes already where I've seen things that I've done on my end. Again, having been mentored by Coach Raz before and going through certain things, like, yeah, I've already used that in my daily life, or I can give that back as an example in the classroom. It's kind of unique too. We have a large amount of GAs, so I'm in the same classroom as some of my staff. I'm not sure if they like that or even if I like that, but it's an opportunity for us to have some more feedback for them in a professional setting, besides just the weight room of, how you handle yourself in the classroom, how you handle yourself in front of professors. That's ultimately how you're going to be viewed across campus amongst our department. That's what we try to make sure that we have a reputable vision and viewpoint of our department across the campus, whether it's the maintenance staff, the janitorial staff, or all the way up to the president of the university. We want to make sure that we're holding our staff and our standards to a high level to make sure that they're aware of what we're here to do.
So do you think it's really valuable, for a coach who's listening to this and has his bachelor's in exercise science or related field? Do you think it's super valuable to maybe do what you're doing there and get your master's in like a business or administrative type sector, to where that's going to help you in this head role you're in now, where you're managing people just as much as you are doing X's and O's of strength conditioning?
Yeah, I mean, you're asking the guy who's going through it, but I really think that I've become a more well-rounded individual. I've had conversations with people that have gone through master's degree programs at the exercise science, ex-phys level, that have sought out the extra expertise when it comes to the education side. But I think that a lot of that might be lacking versus what I'm getting right now from the business side. We've had leadership classes. We've had opportunities to understand financials and understand where money goes and what's money being spent and where and why and how and the processes that take place. A lot of that stuff I wouldn't have been exposed to if I wasn't in these classes. And so I will say, for me personally, I think it makes me more well-rounded as a coach. And I would go on a limb here too as well and say that if you find yourself moving into a head role, or you find yourself moving into a role that is of a mentorship aspect, the easy part for me is doing the programming of strength and conditioning on the floor, in the weight room, the agility, the speed work, the conditioning aspect. That's easy. Like, I've done enough of that to know what to do when and where to do it and how to do it. But the hard thing for me is, okay, now that I have a staff of, again, depending on the year, of somewhere between 7 and 10 probably, how do I incorporate and make those personalities match up well? How do I mesh those things together? How do I get them to be the coach that they can be? How do I draw that out of them? How do I, deal with upper administration problems? Those types of things I've learned a lot from the classroom setting. And then also I'm able to implement those things on a daily basis with our staff, and then also in type of interactions we have. I just don't think I would get that from the ex-phys, exercise science, sports performance realm at the master's level versus what I'm doing with business. So, and I don't want to say this, but it may give me more opportunities too later on in life. Everybody says there's very few people that retire as a strength coach. Okay, now I have something to fall back on that's maybe a little bit more well-versed and a little more, this gives me more opportunities, I think, for the future. So, not saying that's what's happening, but that's one of the things that, I took into consideration before I started my master's program was the future and what avenues I would be able to fall back on if I had to.
Yeah, that's huge. Just make yourself more versatile and helping where, because I just didn't have that background, and I just found the same thing. The people side and managing those administrative type things is one of the reasons why I started this podcast, is because I didn't have a business or administrative background, and I wanted to learn from people who do a lot better than I do, how they do some of these things. So I think, I think that's a great path you're on there, and that's huge. So how about, Coach, what are some of your favorite professional development resources? When you talk X's and O's, maybe what are some of those that you really keep going back to that you base your programming or just your coaching style off of?
Yeah, specifically for strength conditioning and actual program design, I think you have to go to periodization training for sports from BAMPA, and that's going to be one of the foundational pieces if you get outside of the essentials textbook, of course. But those two resources alone will help groove the movement pattern, or help the aspect of the coach to be able to program design and understand the foundations that they need for the athlete. So from a training standpoint, we always start there, and understanding that when we get our coaches in and we get our people in, is they have to understand how and why we program the way we do, and also we periodize things the way we do. If we understand those things, then that's when we start moving to the more complex things. And maybe we move outside of strength conditioning, and maybe we move towards leadership, or we move some other avenues. So we try to hammer the fundamentals first with our staff and with myself personally, and then we start gravitating towards the other aspects of things, whether it's, like I said, leadership, whether it's spiritual, whether it's something completely different or just personal for themselves. We never try to hammer home the basics first.
I love it, Coach, and you've been great on this podcast and your time here. Let's get it wrapped up. We got 4 just quick questions to wrap it up before we give out all your contact info for coaches who want to reach out. Let's start off here. What is your favorite office snack?
Oh man, trail mix in that purple little pouch. I think that's got a little bit of a little bit nuts, but a little bit of chocolate too as well. Yeah, that's kind of a go-to. I can just rip one of those open and just use it as a snack in the middle of the day and kind of quick pick me up.
Same thing here, man. Same purple pouch. Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. What's your favorite or your best coaching advice you've ever received?
I would say again from Coach Steve Rassel, and that's treat every day like a job interview. And it doesn't matter what level, if you're an intern, if you're a GA, if you're the assistant, if you're the head guy, or even if you're the athletic director. But treat every day like it's a job interview, whether it's the interactions you have with people on your staff, the interactions you have with student athletes, the interactions you have with upper administration, just acting like there's somebody watching you and watching what you're doing in every avenue, and making sure that you do it the way to the best of your ability. I think if you take that kind of mindset and apply that to everyday life, I'm not perfect at it, but I think it definitely gives you a little bit extra edge when it comes to living it out. Treat every day like it's a job interview.
Love it. What you got 15 minutes to train for yourself. What are you doing?
Oh, man. Probably going to hit some type of chest. Big bench press guy, and my staff continues to harp on my squat ability. So I'd probably do some type of bench press, keep it high volume because you want to grow the pecs.
Sure.
Gotta equal it out with some pulls, so probably some type of inverted row. Maybe blow up some biceps and triceps and some dips, and then we'll throw in some lunges or some RDLs there for some accessory work lower body wise.
Can't go wrong with a little push pull action. That's solid. All right, Coach. Last one for you. A small school coach who who just does a great job and deserves a shout out.
I would have to say Coach Zach Wallace over at Florida Southern College, small D2 school, again, over in Lakeland, Florida. 45 minutes from us. Him and I, there's a personal connection there too. We both interned together at Weber our first year here. We both were the assistants here the year after. The guys are doing an absolutely phenomenal job. He stepped into a solo gig role over there at Florida Southern. First ever head strength coach they've had, took on everything, works with every single sports team, tries to go as many games and matches and things like that to be seen beyond the weight room again. Great guy, unique guy, and that's what, if anybody has the opportunity to talk with him or reach out to him, just be aware that there's going to be some uniqueness to him in the right way. But definitely one of the guys that I can call a mentor, a friend, and somebody I looked over to as well for advice, in the weight room with strength conditioning or even just in life in general. And he's doing a great job, and couldn't ask for a better friend from that aspect. So Coach Wallace over at Florida Southern's got to be the guy.
Sounds like a great guest for the podcast. I might have to reach out to him. So.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
All right, Coach, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate your time. I will put all your contact information in the show notes. If there's, coaches who want to reach out to you, is there any way that you prefer? Is it email, direct messages, anything like that?
Yeah, I would say email is probably the best way. Same thing. I'm not a big major guy, type thing. I do get a handful of emails throughout the day, but email is probably the easiest. And then if I don't follow up, I make sure that I do follow up at some point. So they can send me a refresher one after a day or two. And I don't want to be that coach that never responds back to emails. I know we've all been there at some point. We reached out via email and nobody's responded back. I mean, kind of that bad taste in our mouth. But I'll definitely try and reach out back to them via email, or even my cell phone number too as well. Via text too is also another way to get a hold of me. But yeah, that's probably the easiest way and probably the most convenient way.
Awesome, Coach. Really appreciate the time here. Keep killing it down there. Enjoy the Florida heat and humidity. Have a great summer. Good luck next fall.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Coach. Thanks for your time.